Hey everyone, this is Kevin Vota, and welcome to the Mr. Teacher, Mr. Preacher podcast. And this is a Mr. Teacher, that's me, mini lesson on astronomical industriousness. And we will jump into what that means in a little bit and look at the three different types of industriousness at scale as we continue to look at John Wooden's Pyramid of Success and this month's theme of industriousness. Or in John Wooden's words, there is no substitute for work. Worthwhile results come from hard work and careful planning. Before we get to that, let's talk about Amare. Amare is the mental wellness company, and it is one place you can go to address all of your mental wellness, health, and fitness needs by supplementing your gut, and specifically your gut-brain axis, because your gut is your second brain, where your serotonin, most of your serotonin is produced. So if you can fix your gut, you can fix your brain. Your problems are not all in your head, in fact. So some of the products that I've really enjoyed and pay tribute to a lot of the benefits positively and emotionally to Amare include their fundamentals pack. So the Mentabiotics, Mentasync, and Mentafocus. Basics, just getting your gut back up and running with that good microbiome supplement. Also, the Happy Juice tastes amazing. That includes Mari's Edge. That's a watermelon flavor, their Energy Plus, and the Mentabiotics in all one good morning drink. I'm also a big fan of their protein, the salted caramel, the GBX protein, the chocolate vanilla are great as well. But if you are looking for the next kind of area, if maybe fitness and breath work and meditation aren't doing it for your mental health, getting outdoors, and you're still missing that extra piece to the puzzle for your mental health and fitness, consider Amare. Doesn't matter if you're a player, you're a coach, or you're a parent. Everybody could really use some more support with their gut-brain axis. So if that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to check it out, go to Amare, that's amare.com/36505. Again, Amare, amare.com/36505. And you can check out all those products like the Happy Juice Pack and the Amare Fundamentals. All right, let's jump into our second mini lesson on industriousness. And this one's called Astronomical Industriousness. So our previous episode was Atomic Industriousness. So industriousness at its smallest micro level. And we looked at the first few seconds of flow and Julian Smith's the concept of the flinch. And I want to go to the other half of this, which is industriousness at scale and over time. So what does it look like to maintain or shoot for industriousness over those two periods? So something big and a little bit over time, because when we broke apart industriousness into our deep reads, it was work hard and work smart. And this combines a little bit of the two, but it's another type of industriousness that I think we can look at using that adjective there. So the first one I want to talk about is world-class expertise and Dr. Angela Duckworth. So each very famous in their own right, have done incredible work on hierarchy of needs in Scott's case and grit in Angela's case. Well, the two of them came together and wrote this little primer, which you can find on Scott Barry Kaufman's website for free. It's not very long. It's called World-Class Expertise, a Developmental Model. It's like bringing two all-stars together to write something neat. And what they did in this paper, and I'm going to read the abstract to you just so you can get the glimpse, and then we'll go over some of my favorite highlights, is they broke down what it would take to develop world-class expertise. And I know that's in the title, but they did such a great job of isolating it and removing talent from the equation, especially innate talent and IQ, and condensing this down into something readable for all the non-academics even academics up until that point when this was published, which was 2015. So let me read the opening, and then we'll get to kind of some of my key points that I took away and highlighted when I read it. The field of psychology has done a remarkable job discovering the ways people differ from one another in their abilities and talents, but has long neglected the diverse ways people can unleash those capacities. There is no plausible mechanism, I repeat, no plausible mechanism by which our genes directly encode skills like how to dribble a basketball, play the violin, or solve an algebraic equation. And that was highlighted in Daniel Coyle's The Talent Code as well. We are not born knowing how to write a sonnet or flip an omelet. On the contrary, key point, all human expertise, what I'll say is industrious over time and at scale, even at the far right tail of distribution, depends on, number one, experience, and number two, training. All human expertise depends on experience and training. A more accurate understanding of the development of high achievement should inspire people to push beyond their perceived and self-imposed limits to reach new heights that they never would have imagined possible. So that is the overarching summary abstract of this. But some of the key points that I took away is we ask questions in the beginning. I love a good, questions at the beginning of almost any writing, research related or just fun reading. Where do Olympic athletes, virtuoso musicians, and Nobel winners come from? Why are they so different from us? And why do we watch open mouth and wide eyed at what they can do that we cannot? And I think that we, with expertise, especially industriousness, is we get a glimpse of that expertise at the end game and then see that distance between the people we're viewing. We get this awe of expertise, which is a flavor of awe, and where we're at. And that distance is so great that's why that awe comes into play. And then we have to explain this in a way, and just explain it away by saying, oh, well, they're special. They're different. We don't have that. And that is more or less lazy or just convenient to suggest that somebody who is really good at what they do has a special sauce that maybe we do not have. But the third point that I found is that really all talents are developed through a complex interaction of nature and nurture. So it's not easy to just say, well, they're born like that. Nobody's born with really anything. There is that interplay of all these different factors that have to come together into a match for expertise to flourish over time. The fourth point that I really want to bring up is the study by a Stanford graduate psychology student named Catherine Cox. So she studied eminent men and women from 1450 to 1850, and this was the highlight that I had. She and other raters read the biographies and estimated each individual's intelligence quotient. So we're looking at IQ now, by considering how precociously they achieved intellectual milestones such as reading and writing. To her surprise, so for all of you that thinking it's how smart you are, she found only a small relationship between estimated IQ scores and rank order of eminence. So IQ did not play a huge role over time. She went on and dug a little bit deeper. And what did she find? So she went through all these different personality traits of 100 geniuses, and she found the following childhood traits. So if you're looking at your kids, or maybe you're an athlete or a parent or coach, okay, so we're looking at your group. What did predict lifetime achievement? So if we're going to focus on something, what would it be? Here they are. Persistence of motive and effort, confidence in their abilities. Now, we could talk about confidence and how it's developed. Remember, confidence building is skill building. Thanks, Daniel Coyle. We appreciate you. So we had persistence of motive and effort. So you stick with itness, the confidence in your abilities, which are grown over time, and great strength or force of character. Interesting stuff. So IQ did not matter at scale, but those things did. The next point that I was very intrigued by was that early abilities. So David Epstein does a good job about Roger Federer versus Tiger in his book Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. And when we look at world-class expertise, we again defer to prodigies. Okay, they have it really early. But in this point, it says early abilities rarely led to extraordinary adult accomplishments. So just because somebody has it early doesn't mean they develop that persistence, they develop that confidence and that great strength or force of character when it's just given to you. And Benjamin Bloom looked at prodigies as well, pianists, neuroscientists, swimmers, chess players, et cetera, et cetera. The people were regarded as prodigies, and and what he said is all these findings point to an unescapable conclusion that talent alone is not enough to reach higher levels of expertise. So you may have talent, okay, you have the nature and the nurture come together, but that does not in and of itself help you reach high levels. It may not even be the most important predictor of the ultimate levels of expert performance. He said, Benjamin Bloom in this case, is that a strong interest in their particular field, a desire to reach a high level of attainment, and a willingness to put in great amount of time and effort. So it echoes Catherine Cox as well. It sounds very similar to the passion recipe, and as we're going to see, harmonious passion in a little bit. But what do we mean in this next section that Duckworth and Kaufman put? And they say expertise. What is the formula for expertise or industriousness at scale? And what they say is expertise is really talent. So we do need talent. You need talent. You ask any coach, you can't win a long time without talent. You need talent. But it's talent times effort. And that is one of the most frustrating things in the athletic world is you'll get sometimes one or the other. You get a ton of talent with no effort, or you get a ton of effort with not a lot of talent. And you see that in any book like the Strikes Finder books where they compare Rudy versus Joe Montana. Rudy had a ton of effort, but not a lot of talent. And so if you multiply those things together, a 5 times a 1, well, he's a 5 or maybe a 10 if you give him a little bit of talent. Whereas Joe Montana, okay, he's got a lot of talent and a lot of effort. You take 5 times 5, let's say on a scale out of 5, and you get 25. And you can see how that compounds and multiplies to greater effect. But what do they mean by talent? That's a good question, and definitions are useful and helpful. So Scott and Angela say in the equation above, talent is defined as the rate at which a person learns, not as any sort of innate fixed quality. And now there are ways to drive learning if you're looking at the performance triangle, motivation, learning, and creativity, using flow triggers, mitigating any flow blockers, getting all your intrinsic motivation stack set. There's things to do there, but that's for another time. But your goal in a domain is to progress more quickly up the skill curve than others who have invested equal effort. So a lot to unpack there, but the idea that talent isn't what we maybe think it is. On to the next point. Something I absolutely love is Robert Vallerand. The first time I came across this was in this paper for another context. Duckworth is the grit queen, and she talks about grit, the idea of working strenuously toward challenges, maintaining effort and interest over years despite failure, adversity, and plateaus in progress. Grit predicts lots of outcomes. It's good to have grit. It's also good to have self-control, which actually outperforms IQ. So if you have to pick, grit and self-control are great characteristics to have in the vein of Bloom and Cox from before. But the question that these two researchers ask is what can motivate grit and self-control? Man, just all sorts of good questions. Robert Vallerand and his colleagues talked about this kind of passion, not Cal Newport passion where you love something, but when they say passion, it's a strong inclination or desire towards a self-defining activity that one likes. Okay, that's the first thing. You got to like it. You find it important, so you value it, and in which one invests time and energy. So it's time on task. In the fitness world, it's time under load or time under tension. And why do those things matter? So something you like, something that's important, and something that you put energy and time into, is that predicts deliberate practice or deep practice. That is a massive, massive deal. This is why Stephen Kotler talks about getting your passion recipe first, because you get all those feel-good neurochemicals and you get multiple energy streams. Peak performers do not rely on a single stream of motivation. They have lots of different inputs to keep pushing them over time, which is what we're looking at in this episode on astronomical industriousness. The key phrase here: passion predicts expert performance. Passion predicts expert performance. And Vallerand goes on to define harmonious passion as the flavor of passion. Interesting to think that there could be different flavors of passion that is in harmony with the rest of your identity and which you feel in control, demonstrated the most direct path to both well-being and high expert performance. So not only do you get your intrinsic drivers going, so curiosity, multiple curiosities come together to get passion. You align that with a greater purpose. You push that out into the world where you get some social support and you have autonomy to continue to choose this path. And then you get mastery, competence at scale or over time. The first tipping point being 20 hours. We'll cover that in meta industriousness. But you have to have that passion to predict the performance to keep you going. And when you myelinate long enough, then we are going to have this long-term industriousness. Interesting. So how do you cultivate world-class expertise? We've gotten some clues. We've seen some things here, but what does the paper actually say? And they suggest some things for education. Give this a read. Again, this is only 4 pages long. But they suggest 5 particular factors that have shown to increase engagement and interest. What are they? In just following the chronological order we have autonomy. So this could include time, task, team, or technique. How much autonomy? It's 15 to 20%. It's not really that much at minimum. So that's kind of the 3M Google model. You give autonomy into the process and freedom to choose how they learn. So you can't control everything, every portion of the desired task. You got to give a little bit of differentiation there. And if you're just doing a single mode of learning anyways, you're not doing it right. Number 2 is making things meaningful by drawing to personally relevant values and goals in the lives, and they say students, but athletes in this case. So what does the athlete value? What is or are their goals? Interesting conversations. You should know the values and you should ask them our goals. And that makes it more likely they're going to put in the time and energy because they're paying attention to something they're actually interested in. Purpose is the purpose for learning is beyond self-serving concerns. So you're on this greater team or you're in this bigger scale of something beyond them. Whereas the meaningful is internal, that's them. This idea of purpose is more team-based or the larger scale. The 4th factor that they include is competence and self-efficacy for the material, increasing that sense of competence. And that's just putting in the reps. We know that. We know that we have to do the work, as we'll see from professional industriousness, Stephen Pressfield, is that you have to put in the reps. You have to myelinate, those reps one by one over time. And once you can get to that unconscious competence, you're getting there. The 5th thing, which is seemingly out of sorts with the rest of the paper, is relationships. And, you got, teaching is just, it's a moral game, and it's really relationships. And that's where those master coaches in the talent code get to know their athletes, and, they coach and customize based on the person in front of them. Some of them need to be pushed really hard. Some of them need a little bit softer approach. Some of them need to just make it fun. Some need to make it more serious. It just really depends. But that's really what we're looking at over time is what do we learn over time with industriousness or even just coaching in general is we remember the milestones, we remember the memories, what we did and who we did it with. And those are all good things. Those have all been shown to lead to increased engagement, deeper learning, and higher self-regulation. Go to, you could just Google it or just look it up. World-Class Expertise, a Developmental Model by Scott Barry Kaufman and Angela Duckworth. It is a great read and gives us lots of really neat clues in a short writing about what it takes to accomplish something, industriousness over time. And we can use time in years in this case, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, a career. And then that kind of takes away that idea that nobody's born anything and that we're moving beyond innate talent because it really doesn't predict what we can accomplish across time and that we can do it too, whatever our domain is. If we can find that match quality between our talent and our effort, we too can reach that world-class expertise. Number two is this idea of misogis. Now, these next two, misogis and epic wins, will be a little bit shorter. That one had a lot of meat in it, and these two will keep short to just the definition, the rules, and the frequency before we wrap up this concept of astronomical industriousness. Misogis. So where did misogis come from? That came from our first deep read of working hard under the industriousness theme. And it was in Michael Easter's The Comfort Crisis. And Michael Easter goes on his own misogi, where he goes up and hunts, does a hunt, a long extended hunt up in the Alaskan wilderness. What is a misogi? Well, according to Michael Easter, in a tweet and in the book as well, it is an epic physical task taken on for expanding our potential. It is an epic physical task taken on for expanding our potential. The physical is key. Misogi is a physical challenge, something you have to do with your body that pushes you beyond what you've done before. And what the book gets into, which I highly recommend, go check out the episode as well, where we dive into the comfort creeps, making a misogi, and talking more about what it would look like in the athletic realm. But what are the rules here? Like, how do we make a misogi? What is it that expands our potential where we see the world differently after we've done it? It is the archetypal hero's journey. You go out and you see what you were capable of or what you're not capable of in a sense. And it's not just physical in that, yes, there's a physical component. That's the main thing, but it is also mental. It is also emotional. It could be social. If you do desire to do it as a group or a community. The rules, in no particular order, that were included. The funny one is don't die. Well, don't do anything that'll put you at extreme physical harm that you can't come back from. So one of the rules along with don't die is safety measures. Make it hard, but make it to where that you're not going to drown. You're not going to be debilitated because of this. You got to be able to come out not permanently unscathed. You can go in and get a few marks and get your butt kicked, but you cannot come out where you're debilitated for a long time. The rule that is very important is the 50-50 shot. It could be less than that. What I mean by 50-50 shot is that you should probably fail. I believe when Michael was writing and who he's learning it from, name escapes me, is they said a well-designed misogi, you barely make it. You go right up to the edge and you just make it past the finish line or you just fall short. Think like Friday Night Lights, that scene at the end of the game where he's on the ground, the quarterback, knees on his knees at the 1 yard line. Or you can think of the Tennessee Titans from years past on the slant, just falls short or just makes it in. That is a well-designed misogi. The other rules for a misogi, so industriousness with this intensity, it's hard, right? It's beyond just the daily deliberate practice, deep practice, flow, struggle, that 1% to 4%. We're talking much beyond that 1% to 4% for just this portion. Is don't advertise it. The book talks about this misogi being just for you. Don't compare yourself to anybody. And it helps people to make it yours, make it wacky, make it different where there is nothing to compare it to. So it's the Robert Frost concept of if there's a fork in the road, go where nobody's gone before. The road not taken. A misogi is a road not taken. And that allows us to have creativity. And then when you're out there on your own, you can't compare yourself. And that allows you the freedom to push and to see what are you capable of. And if you do accomplish it, great. That was too easy. Did I hit that 50-50 ratio? So again, that's only for you. Make this misogi for you. Make it different, never done before, and maybe never do again. If you make it through. What is the frequency of a misogi? Easter says once a year is good. 1 to 2 times a year, once every 6 months. Depends on what it is. Depends on what other things you got going on in your life. But if we're talking about industriousness, this capacity to explore our potential, what we're actually capable of, it will teach us that we are capable of so much more than we can. I'm not sure from a coaching standpoint if a misogi could be possible with all the physical constraints, team aspect. I'd be curious on what a misogi would look like in a sport, right? Because we're training kids to play a game. It's supposed to be fun. You don't want to, when would you do this? Would you do it at the end of the year after all the games are done and it would be this extra challenge? Would you do it at the beginning before you get to a lot of games? So you wouldn't want anybody to get injured. Everybody's in different places. Maybe it's an individual thing, individual misogis. I'd have to ponder that. This is interesting to consider for every area of youth sports, from the athlete to the coach to the parent. And I think it would put things in proper perspective versus getting so wrapped up in wins, losses, playing time, and other things. When you've gone through a misogi, none of it really matters at that point. What matters is can you do the work? Can you push yourself? It's being in the arena. And it's not necessarily all that other stuff. So we've covered world-class expertise, industriousness over time. We've covered industriousness with intensity. And the final one is this industriousness at scale and what we call an epic win. Now, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because we'll be covering epic wins in our enthusiasm month, the second pillar of John Wooden's pyramid, in Jane McGonigal's, which was where epic wins appear, Jane McGonigal's Super Better. And it's about living gamefully. So what is an epic win? What are the rules, or what is kind of the breakdown of that definition? And then what were some of my favorite questions in the quests that are included in the book? So let's start off with what is the definition? What is an epic win? And how does that apply to industriousness? Well, an epic win is a major breakthrough. It's a goal. So Jane calls it an awe-inspiring outcome that helps you be more motivated and less afraid of failure. So it is more outcome oriented. and it is bigger than just a regular clear goal, which we've covered that flow trigger in our weekly primer. I believe it was the first week of June. And again, it's very similar to misogi in that it allows us to play with this concept of failure or reframe failure. Misogi, it's okay to fail, and you're kind of expected to fail. But a misogi and epic win are different by this definition here, these definitions. And Jane talks about this with goals. So I want to be clear that she's not using the SMART model, but the words that she describes, let's just run with the words that she describes. She calls an epic win like this kind of goal. It has 4 things. 1, it's realistic. A misogi's really not. It's pushing you beyond it. It might even scare the heck out of you. You're like, no way. And that's probably a good misogi, to be honest. Number 2, an epic win is challenging. Okay, that shares that. You do have to draw on your strengths and determination to practice your persistence and other things. Number 3, it's energizing, fires you up. I think a misogi would scare you more. I think this would be more on the anxiety side for misogi, and an epic win would be excitement. And this is a key differentiator. The 4th one, it's forgiving. A misogi is not forgiving. You did it or you didn't. If you don't achieve success on your first try, all is not lost. So it seems like you get more attempts at an epic win, or maybe just need more time. This one you go after maybe until you can complete it. Versus misogi, it's like it's one and done. So that is what an epic win is, and it is a major breakthrough. And what we're looking for with an epic win is objective criteria. We need a measurable win, and to know that we've achieved it. And the 2 that Jane mentions and others have mentioned are time. So, we really have like, how much time did you do said thing? And that could include also a target number. So numbers or time help you quite a bit. Can you do this for X amount of time? We think in like days or months, not necessarily seconds or things like that. Not that small. Or we have a certain type of number where it's like binary. I got 4 out of 5. I got 5 out of 5. Things like that. And so you'll hear things like get 8 hours of sleep every night for 1 week. So we have a number there. Finish a 5K charity run. Well, that's a number and a distance. You could also include time as well. But some key questions, and this could help you with industriousness at scale. So having that out there, and James Clear talks about this and the idea that having 2 different types of goals, that's why we're covering atomic and astronomical industriousness, is what can I do in the next 10 minutes, 10 seconds even, to accomplish my goals? That would be atomic, right? We're looking at something small. Whereas astronomical is what can I do, what matters now that I can do that would help me in the next 10 years. So having those 2 zooms of the next 10 minutes and 10 years is helpful. Stephen calls those, we have our clear goals. We have our goal stacking. We have clear goals for today, our weekly, monthly, annual, and then he calls them the high hard goals. Those are 3 to 5 plus. 3 to 5 is pretty good, depending on how you stack them. But some of my favorite questions, Jane does a really good job of having different quests included in here. And she has questions that you can ask that just provide support for you to come up with ideas for what could be an epic win. And I'll read a few of them. I don't want to do all of them as well, but I'll read a few. So what would you feel really proud to do for 7 days in a row, or 14 or 30? What's a personal best record you could aspire to set? I like that one because it's that same idea for the misogi, where you're not comparing yourself. It's just you versus you. I like that one. What number just feels epic to you? I like these ones. And it's the listicles that you can see that everybody clicks on when they read. So something like read 1001 stories to my kids, walk 500 miles. Take something, any like piece of art and do it 365 days in a row. We seem to like this. The numbers are cool. They just feel huge. And Jane says we're celebrating and easy to tally, right? You can see it. It's 1, 2. You can just pile them up. It's great. I like those. The next one. So that was plan a measurable win in Quest 41. Breakthrough moments, positive turning points. What big step could you take in the next week that would signify a major commitment to your goals? What's something that scares you, but that you could reasonably do in the next 30 days? I like the scare factor in that. This next one's equally as scary for a lot. How could you show off a new skill or strength you've been developing in public to friends or family or so forth? Another scary one is, what have you been procrastinating about? I think in terms of epic wins or industriousness, we know what we want to do. We just don't do it. And I think that's a misaligned stack and or lack of clear goals. Alas, but what have you been procrastinating about or avoiding doing that you really want to get done once and for all? It's a good one. Another one is these kind of 90-day sprints, which you see in various productivity or coaching, life coaching, is a major leveling up moment in real life that you could accomplish in the next 90 days. So you get to the end and say, whoa, I went hard for those few months. What could you do? And we're terrible at estimating this, for the record. We have no idea sometimes. I think you get better as you do it, but that could be an epic win as well. A couple more questions and we'll wrap up. Is you move forward, and this quest is called Sneak Up Sideways, quest 43. And these are a little bit more just fun. So instead of sitting here and making all these serious and attacking it head on, it's called lateralization. Is coming at it from another angle. What would industriousness at scale look like? And it sounds like fun. So it's okay sometimes not to be practical. That cult of efficiency, we can just be fun. And I think we forget that. So that first question is about fun. What's the most fun thing you can imagine doing 30 days from now? So me to 30 days, what would be the most fun? And these questions deliver a little bit of a smile. It's like, yeah, it'd be fun if. The answer to that is something good. What's an activity that you've always wanted to explore but never felt like you had the time? I think that one's more for the adults here. And maybe it's just a season, especially if you're in your off season now. So if you coach and you're going and you're busy and you don't have time for much, right? You have your day job, you have sleep, you have probably your fitness to take care of, your own family, your coaching family. And when you're done, or even if you're a parent, you're hauling your kids to this and to that, especially if you have more than one kid. When you get an off season, that's the time, right? I mean, you get a little space. Maybe it's only 2 weeks, maybe it's 4, but you drop everything and say, hey, well, let's take the time to explore that thing. Maybe you are procrastinating about it, but go from there. I like this next one. This is we tend to make epic wins, misogis, or world-class expertise about us. But sometimes it's about others. So who is a person you care about deeply? What could you do something that's special for them? And now this could be a cause or a charity as well. And that's another one of the questions. But we're looking at it from the lens of my epic win's not about me. It's something I can do for somebody else. Interesting. What's something you already know how to do that you could help others with? Teach. And Jane goes on and talks about blogs, podcasts, volunteering. There's all sorts of different ways you can epic win. But those are really some of the key questions that you can say, hey, I did this or I didn't. And what it does is it gives us a benchmark where it's like it's way out there. It's kind of a reach. Misogi's way out there. We're purposely pushing the boundaries. An epic win is more or less it's like a checkpoint along the way to world-class expertise. And I would imagine if you were playing this game long enough that you would have multiple high hard goals or epic wins on the way to world-class expertise. So checkpoints that you've gotten there. Think of like a Derek Jeter's the contract, or Gordon Hayward in Underdogs had his list of things that he wanted to accomplish. I want to start varsity this year. I want to play in college. I want to get drafted. Those are epic wins along the way. Binary yes or no. I would disagree that some of those are violating the gameful goals of being realistic, challenging, energizing, and especially forgiving. Some of those are not very forgiving, but I would agree that they are definitely challenging and energizing, realistic and forgiving notwithstanding. So that is what we were really looking at. We had world-class expertise, misogis, and epic wins. And that's what we mean about it, astronomical industriousness. So industriousness over time and at scale. What does it look like when we get those rocking and rolling? So thank you for watching. Appreciate you. This is a not so mini lesson. I guess they're all going to be kind of a classroom's worth of material. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel, like and subscribe. We are in the month of industriousness before we move on to enthusiasm and the other blocks of the pyramid of success. Typically at the beginning of the week, we put out our weekly primer. We talk about gratitude. We talk about smack talk and flow triggers, something interesting, movie and media that we're watching that go along with the theme. We have mini lessons like this throughout the middle of the week, sometimes one, sometimes two. And then once a week, we do a deep read on a book that is corresponding with the theme that we're going with. So again, thank you for watching. Appreciate you. And if you have any ideas or any thoughts, be sure to let us know. Never stop learning, good people. Never stop learning. Thanks much.